Live from Town Square Towers at the heart of the Jersey Shore. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Get up, get out, do something. Join the conversation. 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Welcome back. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. 7:08, March 17th, 45 degrees, getting up to 65 today. Happy St. Patrick's Day. WOBM AM 1160 and 1310 News Talk Radio. Streaming live on the Radio Pup app at WOBMAM.com. 732-505-1160 if you want to join the conversation. We are joined in studio now by Minister Steve Brigham. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, Jeremy. Thank you.
All right, good. Folks may remember you from Tent City. Right, so that was the Lakewood camp that was so much in the news a few years ago. Why don't you tell folks really kind of what we were talking about in the break? How did you kind of get started as a champion for the homeless?
Well, Jeremy, it kind of found me about 16 years ago. In I think it was 1999. A fellow by the name of Steve, he was living in a boarding home in Jackson, and I was visiting some other person in the home trying to get them food. And this fellow Steve came up to me and he said, "Minister Steve, I can't pay my rent this coming month. Can you help me?" And I thought for a second, and I said, "This fellow might ask me for rent next month and the following month, and there's just no way that I can do that for him." So I looked at the fellow. He was a young fellow. He's in good shape. And I says, how about a tent? How about we set up a tent close by, and, I'll bring you food every so often, and, we try that. And he thought for a second, and he said, I'll do it. I've got no other options. I'll take it. So we set Steve up in the woods, and for about 2 weeks, he stayed there, but he couldn't find a job, and there was no pantries in the area, and he asked if we could relocate him. So I did. I relocated him to the power lines in Toms River, off of 37 by the Toms River, back at the hospital. And there, the next day, he gave me a call, and he said, "Minister Steve, I found other homeless people living in the woods." And so I came out and I met the new homeless people, set them up with a tent and camping gear. They were sleeping under a tarp on a king-size mattress in the middle of the woods. And they said to me, "Minister Steve, we know of other homeless people living in the woods. Can you help them?" And I said, "Sure. I'll meet you here at the same spot tomorrow night." And I met them and set them up with some camping gear. They were all in dire straits as far as their camping situation.
Right.
So then I went to Lakewood. I says, "Lakewood's a poorer town than Toms River. How about maybe there's homeless in Lakewood?" And so I looked around, and there on 88, behind the VIP Chinese restaurant, there was an abandoned car lot, and there was 15 people living in the abandoned cars there behind the restaurant. And so I started asking the questions, saying, what's available in Ocean County? Is there a shelter in Ocean County?
Right.
Where do people go that are homeless? And so I found out that there was no shelter in Ocean County. There was very little resources for the homeless in Ocean County, just temporary hotel stays put up by social services, but that was limited. And then when that was done, they were giving the homeless a one-way bus ticket to Atlantic City. It's an urban environment, a rough environment, and a lot of the homeless were coming back to Ocean County, what they were used to. So that's how I got started. And I just day by day, met the needs of the homeless where I saw them, trying to meet their needs of food and heat, shelter, the basic necessities.
Right. So ultimately, Tent City was broken up. Right, and I guess it was there was a guarantee for everyone in Tent City of a year of housing, I guess as a tax-paying, let's put it that way, as a tax-paying member of the Ocean County community, I think we probably all want to just feel like, oh, that's great, we did our job. right? They all found a place. They were taken care of for a year. I'm sure that they all ended up, it worked out for everyone, and we have solved their problems. I'm sure you have a different take on how that all ended up, right?
Well, there's an old saying in AA: if nothing changes, nothing changes. And
Right.
so there was no supportive services, no wraparound services for the homeless that went into that housing for a year. They were typically matched up with local landlords in Lakewood, and no other services were provided. And so there was no job training, just nothing to improve their situation. So almost 100% of the people that went into that year's worth of housing lost that housing at the end of the year.
Right. And back out fending for themselves at this point.
Yeah, well, fending for themselves with the help of Minister Steve.
Right. So what do you do? So what does a day in the life look like for you?
Well, when I'm not going to a radio station, it's
Right.
let's see, it's it's getting up, assessing what camps are going to have needs. I've got 5 small micro camps right now, scattered about, most of them under the radar, especially the ones in Lakewood. Lakewood has been fining the homeless $500 for trespassing, giving them a ticket for $500 for trespassing every time they find the homeless.
What are they collecting for that? How's the collection rate looking for that?
Well, it's homeless people going to jail is typically what it ends up
Right.
happening. Yeah, there's no money there to collect, so and what that is just trying to force the homeless out of Lakewood. And but there's people in Lakewood. There's a fellow making a house out of cardboard just the other night, going down the streets, Angel, and he asked me for a tent. And also other people, that hang out in the library, they're asking me for tents so that they can set up. So again, we've got these small camps, and my day is going around to these camps, seeing what needs, of course, food, if they need any type of blankets or anything like that, or even garbage pickup. That's something in our society that needs to be done. So there's a camp that I'll be later on today picking up some of the garbage, taking a trailer out and loading up the bags of garbage that they have and taking it away. So
Wow.
So it's just assessing the needs of the homeless and going out there and meeting them.
And on the back end, obviously advocating for greater change around how we deal with the homeless. So just so we're clear, you're here to tell us today that there is still a homeless problem in Ocean County, right? We haven't solved that one just yet.
Right. Well, and again, it seems to be an organized effort to try to force the people out of Ocean County into other areas. Someone had gone to New York City not too long ago, and there was homeless people lining the streets
Right.
of New York City. And the reason for that is because counties like Ocean County, they don't create the services that the homeless need, so the homeless are going to migrate to where there are services. And that's why there's a problem, such a problem in New York City, because a lot of the counties are doing the same thing. Instead of sharing the burden equally and fairly between the society, and the communities, what a lot of communities are doing, Ocean County included, is, limiting their resources for the homeless. So it's forcing the homeless out of the community, which isn't fair. Really,
Right.
Everybody should share the burden of the homeless, not just the urban centers that have typically geared themselves up to have the resources.
Right. Well, the one-way ticket to Atlantic City in and of itself is an unbelievable twist. If for someone that hadn't heard that previously. What I'd like to talk about when we get back from break is I'd kind of like to get your ideas on what we can do, like what we should be advocating for, what good looks like, what really addressing this important issue, should be here in Ocean County, a progressive community like Ocean County. So we'll be right back. Minister Steve Brigham, Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin.
The Sean Hannity Show, this afternoon at 3. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin returns next. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Connect with Jeremy, 732-505-1160. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160, 1310, and WOBMAM.com.
We're back with Minister Steve Brigham talking about our homeless situation here in Ocean County. And I'll tell you what, I joke with Zach, and I joke sometimes. Usually we're goofing around in between breaks, and we kind of talk about there should be a behind the scenes, right? So you could see it. I think the conversations I've been having with Minister Steve Brigham are it really is unfortunate. Unfortunately, it's educational. And it's disturbing on so many levels. But, Minister, what would you do? I know that you're working on a new project to kind of really address the problem at a higher level. So why don't you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, Jeremy, the project is Destiny's Bridge. It's a concept that I came up with living in Tent City and working with the homeless for these 16 years. And so, I've seen what people really need. I call Tent City my college degree in sociology. I learned a lot living among the homeless. The homeless need community, and everybody needs that. Everybody needs that social environment where they're accepted and they feel comfortable among their peers. And so the concept is called Destiny's Bridge. And what it is, it's a micro community of tiny homes, but it's a 2-year program where people, again, are retrained in a lot of ways. Life skills, job training. They live within the community. They have all the support that they need if they have any addictions or issues with mental illness. All those issues are addressed by professionals in the community. So it's a holistic type concept. And the people, are nourished up so that they, after 2 years of living in the community, it's, again, a sustainable community, that after 2 years they should have the resources, they should have the know-how to be able to maintain themselves in the, in the broader society.
Okay. So, I think there's a perception, right, when we think about the homeless, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I don't think I am. There's a perception. I think the first knee-jerk reaction from folks is, well, go get a job, right? Go and get your way out of this, right? And so, what would you say to people who? Because I'm sure that's not an unusual reaction, right? Is that we live in America, we live in a land of opportunity. So why aren't these folks going out and doing better for themselves? How would you answer that?
Well, it's multifaceted, the issue, of course. So, just to narrow it down to get a job is, not thinking about the issues very much. But, it takes 3 minimum wage jobs in this area to afford the basic necessities, 1-bedroom apartment, right, a used automobile, and the basics. So what it is you just can't afford to live off of 1 or 2 minimum wage jobs. If you're not skilled in a particular job and you don't have support from your family or from the government, you're on your own and you're not going to make it,
right,
at a minimum wage job in Ocean County.
Right. So, okay. So I think when we get back, though, let's talk about how. So Destiny's Bridge. I want to understand if that's going to help these folks, really get back into society in the right way. Obviously 3 minimum wage jobs is ridiculous. But we know that we have systemic problems here at the Jersey Shore around housing versus jobs, with transportation versus jobs. So I want to talk a little bit about that and a little bit about what we can do, kind of not just from the individual sense, but really as an infrastructure of a community. So Minister Steve Brigham talking with us about the homeless in Ocean County in particular. Be right back. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin.
Coming up next, the latest from WOBM News, the Town Square, New Jersey News Network, and Fox News Radio. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Live from Town Square Towers at the heart of the Jersey Shore. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Get up, get out, do something. Join the conversation. 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Welcome back. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. We are here with Minister Steve Brigham talking about the homeless in Ocean County. So we had Ted Gooding in here from Ocean Inc., I believe last Monday, talking about microhousing, and I think that's something that you had brought up in our conversations as well. So why don't you tell us a little about microhousing as an alternative and a way to kind of start addressing the problem at a larger scale?
Well, I think, Jeremy, it's a great way to bring down the cost of living. A big chunk of anybody's expenditures during the month is housing. And so if you can't afford a big house, it's just very practical and sensible to have a smaller house. And so I think it's a solution, or part of the solution at least, to a big problem.
Right.
There's a lot of people, low income earners out there that are boarding up with family, living on their couch, and living in adverse conditions. A lot of people. I know a lot of people living in their cars throughout Ocean County, and it's because of the cost of housing. So it just makes a lot of sense to have smaller homes. So we can do it. I know my first home in Ocean County was in Bricktown. It was one of these smaller ranches back in 1960. There was two models that were built there in that development. There was the standard model, which went for $5,000, and then there was the deluxe model that went for $8,000. And so, again, let's just go back to smaller homes like we had in the 60s around this area. We can do it.
Right.
There's still some land here. We've got enough resources. We should definitely have enough people that need jobs, for construction, for building houses. So, it just makes a whole lot of sense to let's create smaller houses to relieve the pressure of the low income and the homeless.
And so I guess in your perfect world, and correct me if I'm wrong, from everything I'm getting, we create a community with micro housing, right? That surrounds the micro housing with the appropriate services, right? Meaning additional job training, especially into the trades. Meaning kind of the addiction counseling or any kind of other psychological issues that may have kind of taken over, and that we are really kind of working with a whole community from a holistic standpoint in kind of a one-stop area that folks could really kind of get themselves back together.
Yeah, Jeremy, that makes a lot of sense. Destiny's Bridge is that comprehensive, concentrated place where the homeless could go and get all of their needs met. And I saw that in Tent City. Like right now, I'm running around to different camps during the day, and in Tent City, it was all centralized. The homeless came to Tent City, and all the resources were there for the homeless. So the same concept is that, all the resources will be there, but we'll have the professionals to deal with the issues that typically homeless people come with. And we need to do this for the taxpayer. We're spending a lot of money on these programs that we have in Ocean County, and not minimizing their importance, but I think if we concentrate the services, we can save the taxpayer a lot of money, and we can save the homeless and the poor, the low income, that avail themselves of these resources a lot of trouble in transportation, trying to get to these resources when typically a lot of them don't have automobiles. Most of them don't have automobiles. So let's make a friendly environment for everybody, for the taxpayer and for the homeless.
Right. I'll tell you what, and so we're coming up against it here. We just have a few minutes left, and I just want to say, you are an amazing person on so many levels. I mean, the fact is, so many folks talk about helping out with issues and doing the right thing and giving back to the community, and you yourself are living in a tent, right? You are homeless, and I'm going to say homeless by choice, because you believe that the best way that you can help is to understand what really is happening and understand what the obstacles are, so that you can best be the advocate and be the champion for this cause as best that you can. And that is, you have made the ultimate sacrifices in your life for the good, for the betterment of a community. And that's, there aren't a whole lot of people in this world that I think can say it in that same way. So I am honored to have met you here today, and I want to thank you for all the work that you're really trying to do for certainly an at-risk community that needs to be addressed.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. And again, it's more blessed to give than it is to receive. So, and every man needs a challenge. Every man needs a purpose. And so, this has become my mission in life. My purpose is to create something better for the homeless and the poor of our community. It's a humanitarian effort. I think we can better our society. I'm a 12th generation American, have a lot of pride in America, and want to see a better America.
Right.
And I think we can create one.
12th generation American, and I love the way he described himself in the break. He said that he comes from a long line of pioneers. He's a pioneer himself, and this is just continuing the legacy and continuing down that road. Minister Steve Brigham, thank you so much for taking some time with us this morning.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. It was a pleasure being here.
All right, great. We'll be right back. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin.